Hello, you guys. Welcome. This is going to be our model number 2 from the course Foundational Skills for the English Language Teaching. So if you're ready, I'm ready. All right, I'm just going to present one of my files, and then we're ready to go. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys remember from model number 1 that I vaguely introduced and started to talk about the best practices term. Let's just go for a short review. Best practices is existing things, existing activities inside a classroom, because we're talking on an educational basis here, that are defined as the best practices that any teacher could be applying or using in any classroom at any particular subject. But when it comes to talk about best practices about language teaching, we are going to start talking about Stephen Krashen. Stephen Krashen is one of the the exceptional or the most significant references when it comes to English teaching or language teaching in the world recent years. Stephen Krashen began a study and a research that will include five different ideas or 5 different hypotheses about second language acquisition. It started around the 1980s and it developed later with more contributions from other different authors. But the main idea about Stephen Krashen was that he intended to explain that in order for any person, for you and me, in order for us to start talking and start using a second language, we need to have a comprehensible input with us. Meaning this, all students that are in the classroom, what you are watching in front of you, the teacher, the information, the activity, all that you have, all that it is in front of you in the classroom, it has to make sense to you. And it has to make sense in the way that is going to help you connect the previous information that you have from previous years in order to create new information. Yes. And this was like a milestone, un evento importante on educational research, because Krashen began to analyze and to study what were the 5 possible scenarios for a language teacher to consider if he or she wanted to become a more effective language teacher in the classroom. Okay, so as you can read here, it says, by adding meaningful content and vocabulary in its scaffolded, like andamiaje, poco a poco, or comprehensible way, instructors or teachers can increase learning without raising that student's affective filter. What does it mean without raising the student's affective filter? Meaning that without your students realizing, or without your students completely understanding what's going on, they will be put in difficult situations, but they won't feel stressed about it, because you will be taking them step by step. And with the comprehensible input hypothesis, you as a teacher will be making sure that everything that you have decided to put into your lesson plan is going to make sense for them, because in the first place, it makes sense for you. I don't know if you're following me here. Yes. Another one of the authors, or the main influences on the best practices foundations, it goes with Vygotsky, or as we know them in Spanish, zonas de desarrollo próximo. This theory focuses on the higher level of problem solving or cognitive activity that results from scaffolding or working with another to stretch oneself from one's level to a higher level through meaningful scaffolded interaction. So you have Lev Vygotsky, and then he first started to talk about scaffolding, like one step at a time, and then he added a second theory that it wasn't called constructivismo. Now it was called socioconstructivismo. That's why here you can read or working with another to stretch oneself from one's level. That means you can create and elaborate your own knowledge, your own information, and that's good. That's your own scaffolding, tu propio andamiaje. But at some point, you can start doing more scaffolding with the help of others, and that will be socioconstructivismo. Yes. So far, when we talk about the beginnings of best practices for language teaching, we have to remember it is thanks to Krashen, Vygotsky, and from there, the term of CLT, communicative language teaching, started to be heard or to be used around the 1960s. Now, if we go back to Krashen, this was in 1982, but Vygotsky was way before Stephen Krashen. So the CLT originated in 1966 with Dale Hymes, 1968. This was a response to Noam Chomsky, another teacher or linguistic, that he studied the theories of universal grammar and linguistic competence. Long story short, let's not get confused. Noam Chomsky believed that all human beings, from our biological point of view, we will be charged or pre-equipped with information already in our brains in order to learn a language or a second language. Yes. And from this point of view, people like Dale Hymes started to think about the CLT theory, or the communicative language teaching theory. The theory of communicative competence was further developed by Canali and Swain, and then Widowson and Murcia in 1993. Long story short, and in overall, it is this emphasis on communicative competence that it is important for ESL students to feel successful in their community classrooms and the many other settings in which they wish to use English. So this all CLT terminology, it is around English teaching, yes, and the importance of being communicative in the classroom. So we go with one of the main ideas on foundational skills and best practices that is called effective, communicative, and comprehensible. Some tips to approach our practice to it. So once again, according to Stephen Krashen, which is a leader in ESL and author of the theory of the second language acquisition, as I told you, he developed 5 different hypotheses. This important theory is studied by all future teachers of ESL students. English as a second language. In his input hypothesis, Krashen and Terrell hypothesized that an individual's listening and reading abilities are paramount, means they are very essential and important in order to have productive skills of speaking and writing. Once again, in language teaching, we have 4 skills to consider: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. If we want to achieve a more effective communicative level of the language we are teaching with our students or we are learning, we have to consider that it's very important to be exposed to a listening input. That's why it comes the name of the theory of Krashen, the input hypothesis, the listening input and the reading input, because those two skills are going to be essential if we want to produce the language. And how are we going to produce the language? Either we're going to be able to understand what we are listening and we can write it, or either we are going to listen and we can speak about it, or either we can be reading something in English and then we can write about it, or we can be reading something in English and then we can speak about it. And that's how it works. Yes? When a person has been given a sufficient amount of comprehensible input, meaning listening, reading, in order to have speaking and writing, the person will acquire enough competence to speak and write. These authors also argue that the input that parents and teachers give should be roughly tuned, like modified, or simply or simplified enough to be roughly understood, instead of being at exactly the right level or finely tuned. What does that mean? If you are working with elementary levels when you're teaching a second language, you have to talk to your students the way parents talk to their kids when they are learning their language. That's what it is this about. This also has the benefit of reaching more students in the group who may be at various levels of language acquisition. With rough tuning, the students are more likely to hear language reused and reviewed. This will ensure that they hear and can understand the language better and find the lessons more interesting than if a teacher were simply focused on one particular area of grammar at precisely the correct level. Okay, so instead of trying to teaching English by talking about the verb be, pronouns, colors, whatever, it's about the communicative approach of the language. If you try and if you ensure that your students are listening to you in a very smooth, calm, simply way, your students will feel the need to try to emulate those sounds or those words, because they're going to be simple for them to produce them. And that is what the input is about. Yes? This is one of the examples when we talk about the roughly tuned technique. Now, if you notice here, it says, use this procedure when possible, and it is very useful to learn new words. Now, if you notice, it gives you different instructions about introducing new vocabulary or words to a group of students. Take a look. Look at the word, listen to the word, listen to the word in a sentence, say the word, spell the word, say the word again, break the word into syllables. I'll give you an example. Look at the word, the first one that we have here. We have one with a C, one that starts with P, one that starts with A. Look at the word that starts with letter C. Listen to the word. Country. Listen to the word in a sentence. My country is Mexico. Say the word. Country. Spell the word. C Say the word again. Country. Break the word into syllables. Country. The roughly tuned technique, it gives you the opportunity to reach some of those extreme and specific cases of students that you will be talking to, and they will tell you like, no, teacher, el inglés no es para mí, no hay manera que yo pronuncie algo. Oh, it's impossible for me to be using all these sounds and all these words. Like, I cannot do it. It's not going to be for me. Well, guess what? You can try one of this, and let's see how can they manage and realize they can use English, even though it is for just one simple word. Because remember, this is what the input hypothesis is about. A simpler, lighter, easier way to introduce English to your students. So they will feel excited or elicited about, I'll give it a try. Voy a tratar de decirlo. And the minute a student realizes he or she can pronounce a word in a correct way, it has to do something with self-esteem and self-confidence, because your student, perhaps he won't be as stressed as he or she used to be before, because she will now or he will now realize that she has the ability to speak another language, even though if it is just for just one simple word. Yes? So give it a try. Why don't you try about the word with a P and the word with an A? Let's see how you do. All right? Take a few minutes. You can pause the video here and do the work. All right, your turn. Now, I want to talk to you about another. Remember, we're talking about foundational skills in the classroom. So this is one of the techniques that it is very well known and is very effective. Another technique we're talking about, it is called the Freyer model technique. Now take a look to the information you have here on the slide. You have like a chart, una especie de tabla, un cuadrante. You have a word in the middle, and I'm going to help you with the information below. The Freyer model is a graphic organizer for building student vocabulary. This technique requires students to define target vocabulary and apply their knowledge by generating examples and non-examples, giving characteristics, drawing a picture to illustrate the meaning of the word. This information is placed on a chart like this one, and it is divided into 4 different sections to provide visual representation for students, because your students are going to be able to illustrate or obtain the information about the same meaning. Take a look to the example. The word is volcano. This chart came with 4 different templates. Este cuadrante venía ya con 4 instrucciones. My teacher says this word means illustration, sentence examples, and connections. And it says, my teacher says this word means an opening in the Earth's crust through which lava, volcanic ash, and gases escape. The illustration, it was made by the student. The sentence examples, Popocatépetl is a Mexican volcano, made by the student. Connections, if I think about volcano, I can think about geology, I can think about fire, I can think about island, or I can think about dragons in this case, okay? So this is more or less the Freyer model technique. The Freyer model is a long-standing graphic organizer that has been deployed in classrooms with success for decades. It was first conceived by Dorothy Freyer, like the Freyer model itself, and her colleagues at the University of Wisconsin. It is a simple but effective model to help students to organize their understanding of a new academic term or complex vocabulary choice. The Freire model assists students to learn the meanings and applications of unfamiliar words, concepts, especially in ESL or EFL environment. ESL, English as a second language, EFL, English as a foreign language. They're different. As a second language, when a student is trying to learn English because he speaks Spanish, but the territory where he or she lives, the official language will be English. English as a foreign language, a student that lives in Mexico, the official language is Spanish, and the foreign language will be English. This strategy helps students to identify, understand, learn new vocabulary, and build their lexicon. It activates past knowledge, links it to the new concepts, and stimulates critical analysis of the information. Yes, let's take a look to this one. Okay, hold on. I think, yeah. Yes. I'm sorry. I didn't start from the beginning. Let's watch this briefly introduction to the Freire model. All right.
The Freire model is a tool for teaching vocabulary in a very direct way. And it's a kind of a four-square model where the students write the word that they need to know, a really important vocabulary word. We call them depth words here at the school. And they write it in the middle of this Freire model. And then there are four different ways they connect with what the word means. With the definition, they learn the exact definition of the word. They draw a picture of the word, they use the word in a sentence, and then they make connections from this word to other content areas. I use the document in class by giving them all their own copy of a Freire model. And then I either put the copy up on our TV screen for them to see as I write down each section, what goes in each section, or I use the board and we do it on the board. I put a copy of this Freire model on the board for us to look at today. So we talk through each area one at a time. And before we do the definition, I invite them to tell me what they think the definition means. And I try to take all of their definitions and weave them into the one that I really want for us to have. Paula said the word sphere. She says a planet has something to do with geometry. A planet is a sphere. Remember, a sphere is like what? Like everybody? Like a ball, right? So I like that. At least we're going to put all these definitions together and see what we can come up with. For the pictures, I ask for their ideas, and then I do a picture, but I let them have freedom to draw their own picture, what excites them, as long as it goes right back to the word. If we tie a picture to a definition, our brain has two things to hold on to remember the definition. I'm going to make an arrow going this way, and over here is the sun. That's the star that we orbit. And same thing with sentences. We brainstorm some sentences, and then in the end they write a sentence that makes sense to them. And then we all write down the same connections. I like the Freire model because I've seen so much improvement in my students' ability to retain information. They can really recall the vocabulary words that I need them to know well, and we can go back to the Freire model. We have a notebook we keep all of the pages in. They can go back and look at things and recall those words, and I've seen such an improvement in my vocabulary scores.
I like the Freire model because there's lots of different ways that you can understand the word. Like you have the word in the middle, and you have four different examples, so you can understand what the meaning of the word is.
My students like the Freire model because
So, yep, basically that's it. It's having like the kid on the video said, it's having four different ways to understand what's going on with the word. Simple as that. Now, I don't know if you remember that previously I mentioned a word that is called lexicon. Lexicon and vocabulary. Let's talk about these two different types of word banks. Lexicon, it's a list of words along with its related knowledge under linguistic significance and use. Vocabulary, it is a list of words a person knows of a particular language. Lexicon has a broader coverage on the linguistic significance and the usage of words in a language. Vocabulary defines the list of a word a person knows of a language. Lexicon, it is often used in a linguistic context. Vocabulary, it is used on a general context. So, this is what happens a lot of times, several times with English classes, or perhaps you have these experiences before. It happens that maybe you have been taking English lessons for your whole life, and you understand words, and you understand how to express yourself, and you understand what someone is talking about or explaining, or what you are reading in a billboard on the street, or what you're listening to on the television. But suddenly you realize there are specific words that they don't make any sense to you. Like if you are listening to a conversation about food, or about relationships, or about the weather, for example, and then you hear the phrase or the slang like it's raining cats and dogs, which is a common phrase for está lloviendo a cántaros. It's raining cats and dogs, like a huge amount of rain. Well, that will basically be lexicon. Lexicon are specific phrases or words that they have an inside meaning within a community or in a specific area of a spoken language territory. Yes. Let's see another example. For example, here in Mexico, here in Comarca Lagunera, we say a lot the word like anda. Anda, it's an expression to express like surprise, or like a dramatic success event, or episode or something, no? Like anda, I'm about to tell you some really hot stuff like chisme. But maybe in another part of Mexico, anda, it is basically what it is, that it's like, go ahead, keep moving on. Entonces, anda, de andar, de muévete, de caminar. Yes? So that would be another example from lexicon and vocabulary. It goes with different ways. So anda as a vocabulary would be, for a gringo, it will be anda, it will be walk. Anda for a lagunero will be, oh my God, what just happened? Like there's a good chisme here. Yes? So that's the difference. And this technique of lexicon and vocabulary, it is also very essential if you want to teach real English or real language in your classes and with your students. Okay, and I think it is also suitable for advanced levels. I just wanted to make the disclaimer, the explanation of lexicon. Take a look to the examples of the prayer model. This is the definition number 1, promise. And then you have definition, synonyms, sentence, and picture. I promise we will live happily ever after. And then you have a picture about a wedding, possibly. Synonyms is to keep a promise, to take my word in a promise, to sweep on a promise, and to tell a promise. A definition, it is a statement that a person really wish to do or to perform, something like that. Another example, the word rippled as an adjective. The definition, that something that is rippled, it's not uniform, it's not the same shape. It is like shaking into waves. Some synonyms and antonyms about rippled. Synonyms will be ruffled, crinkled, wavy. Some antonyms will be even or flat. That will be an example of a picture of waters that are rippled. And this word makes me think of, it makes me think of the ocean and the waves on the beach, because the waves and the water, it's ripple, con olas, ondulada, yes? Let's talk about this one. What do you think? Wax. My teacher says this word means a substance secreted by honeybees. What will you put in an illustration? Of course, you will draw a bee. Think about an example with a sentence. Come on. Think. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What is your sentence? All right. And what about connections? If you listen to the word wax, it makes you think about, or it makes you think of, House of Wax, La Casa de Cera. It was a movie, a horror movie. Earwax, La Cerilla de los Oídos. Candles, velas, they are made of wax. Okay, give it a try. What other connections can you do? All right, let's continue then. This will be a different approach on the Freyer model, if you take a notice. Like, what about illustrating your vocabulary term? And you will be asking your students to do this. Look, crave, like antojar, or hot, as spicy, or temperature hot. Now, let's go with communicative language teaching. Another important component of ESL instruction is the focus on meaning and communication over other approaches. CLT, it's an approach that grew from Delheim's response of communicative competence against Noam Chomsky's focus on grammar. Noam Chomsky said that we should pay attention on what our students have already in their brains, but pay attention on the structure of the language. And Delheim said, well, maybe it's not about language. Maybe it's just about trying to communicate something. In Principles of Language Learning and Teaching, Brown, in 2007, summarizes CLT with 4 characteristics. Number 1, all of the class goals are focused on communicative competence. Number 2, all the techniques focus on meaningful communication. Number 3, communication requires fluency and accuracy. Number 4, in classes that focuses on CLT, students use language both receptively and productively. You remember receptively, listening, reading, productively, writing, speaking, in new ways that have not been rehearsed. This means an increased focus on authentic context in place of drills, dialogues, and other rehearsed forms of language. In the early 1970s, Sauvignon led a semester-length study with her French language learners at the University of Illinois and found that students who engage in unscripted classroom communication, take a look to this one, students who engage in unscripted classroom communication in place of laboratory drills perform better with communicative French tasks. Other words in Spanish, los alumnos que se veían inmersos en actividades libres para poder hablar en vez de seguir un formato de un ejercicio específico, tenían mejores resultados. Okay? So, they showed equivalent grammatical accuracy or linguistic competence to those who had practiced grammatical patterns in a language laboratory setting. This exciting study was the first to show that language learners could practice with role plays, games, and other spontaneous communicative activities in order to develop communicative competence without harming their grammatical accuracy. So it wasn't all about grammar. Sauvignon in the 1970s says, teachers, you should start paying attention to the spontaneous aspects of language. Sauvignon also provides strategies that instructors should teach language students, such as, please repeat, I don't understand, how can one say, in order to help them participate in the negotiation of meaning. Yes? So let's try and do this. I'm going to show you a YouTube video, and let's watch it. And then after watching it, let's see if you can give me some answers. Okay? Now, what do you think the TV ad it's going to be about? Take a look to this picture. Ready? Let's see.
Come in!
All my little plans and schemes lost like some forgotten dream. Seems like all I really was doing was waiting for you. Just like little girls and boys playing with their little toys. Seems like all we really were doing was waiting for love. Don't need to be alone. Don't need to be alone. It's real love. It's real. 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 It's real love. It's real love.
All right. So that was it. Now, in order to try to make this a drill from authentic English input, this was a non-speaking TV ad. You didn't hear any English word at all. But it doesn't matter, and it doesn't mean that if you didn't hear a English word, you don't know what's going on. And it doesn't mean that you cannot try to explain to me what the TV ad was about. So what do you think it was the main message? Give me a clue. What do you think? What do you think it was the main message about? Yes, it was Christmas, love, friendship, finding a soulmate, and the universal core value, well, family, companionship, whatever. Yes. So if we talk about spontaneous and if we talk about communicative activities, this is a good example of how language can be used in the classroom, not in a grammatical sense of way. Okay, let's take another example. Oh, sorry, no. Let's go with this one. The CLT principle here means an increased focus on authentic context in place of drills, dialogues, and other rehearsed forms of language. The context, well, Visual aids, ambience aids, and tangible aids can help us throughout an entire lesson. No need of complex, no-nonsense drills or activities that do not revolve around our students' backgrounds. The least we can do is bring them into the classroom. There is a reason we call them ambientes de aprendizaje. So we have to think about authentic scenarios. Yes. Now, in your virtual classroom, you're going to find this video over here about this kiddo that it's called 20 Things We Should Say More Often. Now, you're going to watch this video, and after you watch this video, you are going to make the video of your own. And we're going to put in practice this spontaneous and authentic use of language, okay? Check the examples, choose the 10 things you consider you should say more often, and record your video and send it to me, okay? You can also ask some friends to help you record it. You can have some appearances on your video, like special guests, so give it a try. Remember, the CLT principle we're talking about is students using language both receptively and productively in new ways that have not been rehearsed. Social and political agendas represent a great opportunity to bring the L2 into meaningful practices, where the need of being receptive and productive is strictly related to our students' identity. That's why I'm asking you, like, take a look to the video, check the 10 things you should say more often, but choose the ones that you relate the most and make the video about that, because I'm giving you the opportunity to identify with them. All right. So that will be it for model number 2. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching this video. Same as model number 1. On this post, you're going to watch the YouTube video for this class. You're going to watch the presentation file that I've been using for this class. You are going to find the links for the YouTube videos that I was talking about and referring to. You are going to find in the section of Trabajo en Clase, you're going to find different activities that are related to all the topics and all the work we have seen during this model 2 so far. Thank you so much, and I'll see you for model number 3. You're almost there. Have the course. Thank you.